Marcus Chen's morning routine was precise, calculated, unbreakable. Wake at 5:30 a.m. Espresso from the Italian machine he'd had shipped from Milan. Scan security reports from his network that stretched across 3 continents. Review overnight earnings from his legitimate tech empire and his considerably less legitimate operations beneath it. He was 31 years old and controlled one of the most sophisticated criminal organizations in North America. His network specialized in cybercrime, money laundering through cryptocurrency, and information brokerage that made him invaluable to people who preferred to remain in the shadows. Governments, corporations, criminals, they all needed what Marcus could provide: untraceable transactions and secrets that stayed buried. The penthouse at Emerald Towers in Seattle's downtown core had been his sanctuary for 3 years. The 40th floor. Corner unit. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains. Security system he'd designed himself, integrated with the building's infrastructure in ways the management would never discover. He liked his privacy. He liked his solitude. He liked knowing exactly who lived near him, mostly tech executives, a few old money families, people too wealthy and too busy to care about their neighbors. That's why the moving trucks outside 40B caught his attention. Marcus stood at his window with his second espresso, watching the movers carry boxes into the apartment next door. Furniture that looked expensive but not ostentatious. Art pieces carefully wrapped in protective covering. Everything organized with military precision. Then she stepped out of the black SUV. She was tall, maybe 5 feet 9 inches, with dark auburn hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She wore black jeans, a charcoal cashmere sweater, and boots that were stylish but practical. Her movements were fluid, efficient, confident. She directed the movers with hand signals more than words, her body language radiating the kind of authority that came from years of being obeyed without question. Something about her made Marcus pause mid-sip. She wasn't scanning the street the way most people did when they moved. Looking for parking, checking addresses, orienting themselves to a new neighborhood. She was assessing. Looking for sightlines, exit routes, security vulnerabilities. Her gaze swept across the building's entrance, the parking garage, the street cameras. Professional. Trained. Marcus set down his espresso and pulled out his phone. He sent a text to his head of security, a former NSA analyst named Sarah. New neighbor in 40B. Run a background check. Everything you can find. The response came immediately. Already on it. Something felt off about the way she cleared the building's background check. Too clean. Too clean. Yeah. Like someone scrubbed her records professionally. Marcus's interest deepened. In his world, people who erased their tracks were either running from something or hiding something worth protecting. Either way, they were interesting. Her name was Isabella Russo, according to the background check that arrived that afternoon. Age 29. Listed occupation: independent security consultant. Previous residence: New York City. No criminal record. No debt. No social media presence beyond a bare-bones LinkedIn that offered almost no real information. This is a cover identity, Sarah said over the phone. And not even a particularly good one. Whoever created this wanted it to pass a standard background check, but didn't bother making it deep enough to withstand serious scrutiny. Can you dig deeper? Marcus asked. I can try, but boss? I'm getting some weird flags. The moment I start probing harder, I'm hitting walls. Government-grade walls. Either she's law enforcement, intelligence, or she's like us. Yeah, that. Marcus ended the call and stared out at the city. Someone with a scrubbed identity and government-grade digital protection had just moved in next door. Coincidence? He didn't believe in coincidences. Isabella Russo stood in her new apartment, surveying the space with the critical eye of someone who'd spent 15 years learning to spot danger before it arrived. The apartment was perfect for her needs. High floor, excellent sightlines, security system she could easily override, and most importantly, next door to Marcus Chen. She'd been tracking him for 6 months. Studying his patterns, his organization, his weaknesses. Marcus was careful, brilliant even, but he'd made one mistake. He'd stolen something from her family. Not money. Not territory. Information. 3 years ago, Marcus's network had intercepted communications from the Russo family operations in New York. He'd acquired details about their shipping routes, their political connections, their financial structures. He'd sold some of that information to competitors, kept the rest as insurance. That information had cost Isabella's family dearly. Her uncle had gone to prison. 2 of their operations had been shut down. They'd lost tens of millions in revenue. And Isabella, as the family's chief enforcer and her father's most trusted operative, had been sent to Seattle with one mission: retrieve the stolen information and eliminate the threat. Marcus Chen had no idea he'd been stealing from the Russo crime family. He thought he was just hacking corporate competitors and selling data to the highest bidder. He didn't know that Isabella Russo was the daughter of Vincent Russo, head of one of the most powerful Italian-American crime families on the East Coast. He didn't know she'd been trained since childhood in everything from hand-to-hand combat to financial manipulation. He didn't know that by the time most people realized they were in danger from Isabella Russo, it was already too late. She was going to get close to him, gain his trust, locate the stolen information, and then decide whether Marcus Chen deserved to die for his mistake or whether he could be useful to her family's expansion into the West Coast. Isabella unpacked her laptop and pulled up the dossier she'd compiled on Marcus. Tech genius turned cyber criminal. No family to speak of. Parents died in a car accident when he was 16, raised himself through foster care and scholarships. Built his legitimate tech company from nothing, then built his criminal empire alongside it. Handsome in that understated way that intelligent men often were. Careful. Paranoid. Dangerous. This was going to be interesting. They met officially 3 days later in the building's private gym at 6 a.m. Marcus had his routine. Treadmill for 30 minutes, weights for 45, then back to his apartment before the morning rush. The gym was usually empty at this hour, which was exactly why he used it at this time. But today, someone else was there. She was on the rowing machine, moving with perfect form, her ponytail swinging with each stroke. She wore black athletic leggings and a fitted tank top that showed off arms that were lean and defined. Not the sculpted look of someone who worked out for aesthetics, but the practical muscle of someone who trained for function. Marcus got on the treadmill across from her, positioning himself where he could observe without being obvious. She didn't acknowledge him. Just kept rowing, her breathing controlled, her pace steady. After 20 minutes, she stopped, grabbed her water bottle, and finally looked at him. "You must be my neighbor," she said. Her voice was smooth, confident, with the faintest trace of a New York accent. 40A, right? Marcus nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "Marcus, you're in 40B. Isabella." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Moved in a few days ago." "Welcome to the building." "Thanks." She took a long drink of water, her gaze assessing him in a way that most people wouldn't notice. But Marcus noticed everything. "You're here every morning at 6. Routine helps with productivity." "I'm the same way." She set down her water bottle. "Security consultant. I work weird hours, but I like to keep a consistent workout schedule." "Security consultant," Marcus repeated. "That's vague." Her smile widened slightly. "I could say the same about tech CEO." Touché. They finished their workouts in silence, but Marcus was hyper-aware of her presence. The way she moved. The way she scanned the room periodically. The way she positioned herself with her back never fully to the door. She was trained. Military or private security, maybe both. When they left the gym, they walked to the elevator together. "Coffee sometime?" Isabella asked as they stepped inside. "I'm new to Seattle. Could use some recommendations for good places." Marcus should have said no. Every instinct told him this woman was trouble. But instead he heard himself say, "There's a place 2 blocks from here." Tomorrow morning, 7:30. Perfect. The elevator doors closed, and Marcus caught her reflection in the polished metal. She was smiling. It wasn't a friendly smile. Sarah's second report arrived that evening, and it made Marcus's blood run cold. I cracked through one layer of her cover, Sarah said over their secure video call. Boss, she's connected to the Russo family. Marcus went very still. The Russo family. As in Vincent Russo. That's the one. She's his daughter, Marcus. Isabella Russo. And according to the deep web chatter I found, she's not just connected to the family. She runs their enforcement operations. People call her the Red Queen. She's been linked to at least a dozen high-profile hits, though nothing that's ever stuck legally. Marcus's mind raced. The Russo family. He'd stolen information from them 3 years ago without even realizing it. The data had been encrypted, hidden in a corporate server he'd infiltrated. By the time he'd decrypted it and understood what he had, he'd already sold portions to competitors. He'd kept the most sensitive material as insurance, never thinking the family would track it back to him. But they had. And they'd sent their best. She's here for the information, Marcus said quietly. All for me. Probably both. What do you want to do? Marcus stared at his reflection in the dark window. He could run. Disappear. He had enough resources to vanish completely, start over somewhere new. But running meant leaving behind everything he'd built. And more than that, running meant admitting defeat. I'm going to that coffee date, Marcus said. Boss, that's insane. She's a professional killer. So am I, when necessary. He paused. But Sarah? Keep digging. I want to know everything about Isabella Russo. Her weaknesses, her fears, her vulnerabilities. If she's going to hunt me, I need to understand my hunter. The coffee shop was a small upscale place with exposed brick walls and local art on display. Marcus arrived 10 minutes early, chose a table with a view of the entrance, and waited. Isabella arrived exactly on time, wearing jeans and a cream-colored sweater that somehow made her look both approachable and untouchable at the same time. You're punctual, Marcus observed as she sat down. I value other people's time. She ordered a cappuccino when the server came by, then turned her attention fully to him. So, Marcus Chen, tell me about yourself. Not much to tell. Built a tech company. Work too much. You. Similar story. Built a career in security. Travel constantly. Finally decided I needed a home base. She leaned back in her chair, studying him. What kind of tech does your company do? Cybersecurity, data analytics, some government contracts. All true, just not the whole truth. What kind of security consulting? Corporate protection, risk assessment, the occasional personal security detail for high-net-worth individuals. Also true, just not complete. It's funny, actually. We're probably in similar circles. Small world. They talked for an hour, dancing around the truth, each gathering information while revealing almost nothing. It was like a chess match disguised as small talk. But something unexpected happened. Marcus found himself genuinely enjoying the conversation. Isabella was sharp, quick-witted, and she matched him intellectually in a way few people could. She asked intelligent questions. She challenged his assumptions. She made him laugh. And underneath the careful layers of deception, he sensed something else. Loneliness. The same isolation he'd felt his entire adult life. When they finally left the coffee shop, Isabella turned to him on the sidewalk. That was nice, she said, and for the first time, her smile seemed genuine. Same time next week. Yeah, Marcus said. I'd like that. As he walked back to his apartment, Marcus realized he was in serious trouble. Because Isabella Russo was supposed to be his enemy. But he was starting to want her to be something else entirely. Before we continue, I need you to do something. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button. It's free, it takes 1 second, And it genuinely helps me keep creating content. Also, drop a comment telling me your favorite part so far and where you're watching from. Now, let's continue. The coffee dates became a weekly ritual, then twice weekly, then almost daily. They'd meet before work, grabbing breakfast at different spots around downtown Seattle. They'd discuss everything: philosophy, technology, art, their vastly different childhoods. Marcus told her about growing up in foster care, about building something from nothing, about the loneliness of success. Isabella told him about growing up with immense family pressure, about always having to prove herself, about the weight of expectations she'd carried since childhood. Neither mentioned the criminal empires they'd built. Neither acknowledged the real reason Isabella had moved to Seattle. But the air between them crackled with unspoken tension. 1 month after they met, Marcus invited Isabella to his apartment for dinner. She accepted, knowing this was her opportunity. His security would be more relaxed on his home territory. She could plant surveillance equipment. Maybe even find the stolen information tonight. But when she arrived at 40A, dressed in a simple black dress that was elegant without being obvious, Marcus answered the door in jeans and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. "Fair warning, I'm a mediocre cook at best." His apartment was stunning. Minimalist but warm, with carefully chosen art pieces and technology integrated so seamlessly it was almost invisible. The view of the Sound was breathtaking in the early evening light. "This is beautiful," Isabella said, meaning it. "Thanks. Wine, please." He poured them both glasses of something expensive and Italian, a choice she suspected wasn't accidental, and they settled on his couch overlooking the water. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said after a moment. "Sure. Why Seattle? Of all the cities you could have chosen for your home base, why here?" Isabella had prepared for this question. She had a dozen plausible answers ready. But instead, she found herself saying, "Honestly? I was running from something." Marcus's expression shifted. "From what?" "From expectations. From a life that was planned out for me before I was born. From..." She paused, surprised at her own honesty. "From becoming the person everyone else wanted me to be instead of figuring out who I actually am." It wasn't the whole truth. But it wasn't entirely a lie either. Marcus nodded slowly. "I understand that. I spent my whole childhood being told I'd amount to nothing. No family, no connections, no future. So I built my own future out of spite. But sometimes I wonder if I'm actually happy or if I'm just proving a point to people who aren't even paying attention anymore." Isabella felt something crack in her chest. This man, her target, her mission, understood her in a way almost no one else ever had. "Do you ever wish you could just start over?" she asked quietly. "Be someone completely different?" Every day. Their eyes met, and the pretense between them seemed to dissolve. Marcus set down his wine glass. Isabella did the same. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said. "I need to tell you something too. You first." Isabella took a breath. This was insane. She should stick to the plan. Get the information, complete the mission, go home. But she couldn't lie to him anymore. "My last name isn't really Russo," she began. "Well, it is, but that's not the identity I'm using for the building. And I'm not exactly a security consultant. I mean, I am, but that's not." "You're here for the information I stole from your family," Marcus said calmly. Isabella froze. "You know." "I know who you are, Isabella Russo, daughter of Vincent Russo, the Red Queen. I've known since the day you moved in." She stood up, her hand instinctively moving toward the knife she had hidden in her boot. "Then why?" "Because I wanted to know who you were beyond your reputation," Marcus said, standing slowly with his hands visible and non-threatening. "I wanted to know if the woman I was having coffee with was real or just a cover identity." "And she's real. The question is, are you here to kill me?" Isabella's hand stayed near her weapon. Her training screamed at her to end this now, complete the mission, eliminate the threat. But she couldn't. I was supposed to, she admitted. Retrieve the information and eliminate you if necessary. That was the plan. And now I don't know what I'm doing. She laughed bitterly. I've been trained my entire life to separate business from emotion, to complete objectives regardless of personal feelings. But you're making that impossible. Marcus took a careful step toward her. I've been trying to figure out how to give you the information without making it look like I'm weak, without compromising my own security. Because I don't want to be your enemy, Isabella. I never did. I didn't even know it was your family's information until after the fact. You could have approached us, made a deal. I could have. But I'm not good at trust. I'm not good at asking for help. I've spent my entire life relying on no one but myself. He paused. Until I met you. Isabella felt tears prick her eyes, which was absurd. She didn't cry. The Red Queen didn't cry. I need to call my father, she said finally. Tell him I'm bringing back the information. Tell him you're not a threat. Will he believe you? He'll have to. Because I'm not killing you, Marcus. Mission or no mission. Family or no family. I can't. Marcus closed the distance between them. He reached up slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and cupped her face with both hands. I've spent 15 years building walls, he said quietly. Protecting myself. Trusting no one. And then you walked into my life planning to destroy me, and instead, you're the first person who's ever made me want to tear those walls down. Isabella kissed him. It was fierce and desperate and full of everything they'd been holding back for weeks. All the pretense, all the lies, all the careful distance. It all shattered in that moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Isabella rested her forehead against his. This is going to be complicated, she whispered. Everything worth having is complicated. My family. We'll figure it out. Your organization. We'll figure it out. Isabella pulled back to look at him. You're serious. You want to actually try this? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. The next weeks were a careful negotiation between two criminal empires. Marcus arranged a meeting with Vincent Russo, not in person, but via secure video conference with enough encryption to make government agencies weep. He returned all the stolen information, along with a detailed explanation of how he'd acquired it accidentally and copies of the transactions showing he'd been unaware of the source. More importantly, he proposed a partnership. Your family specializes in traditional operations, Marcus explained to Vincent, with Isabella sitting beside him. Shipping, logistics, political connections. My organization specializes in digital operations, cryptocurrency, data acquisition, cybersecurity. We're not competitors. We're complementary. Vincent Russo was a hard man with cold eyes and a reputation for brutality. But he was also pragmatic. You stole from us, Vincent said flatly. I did. Unknowingly, but I did. And I'm returning everything with interest, along with my complete network infrastructure for your family's use. Consider it reparations and an investment in future collaboration. And my daughter? Marcus looked at Isabella, who met her father's gaze through the screen without flinching. I'm staying in Seattle, she said firmly. With Marcus. I'll still work for the family, but I'm establishing our West Coast operations. We need a presence here anyway, and this partnership gives us access to resources we couldn't get any other way. Vincent was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his harsh features. You always were smarter than your brothers, he said to Isabella. Then to Marcus. You've got balls, Chen. I respect that. We'll try this partnership. But if you ever betray my family again, you'll never get the chance, Marcus interrupted. Because Isabella will kill me first. Isabella squeezed his hand. Damn right I will. Vincent laughed. Actually laughed. Welcome to the family, Marcus. 6 months later, Marcus and Isabella stood on the rooftop of Emerald Towers, overlooking the Seattle skyline at sunset. The partnership between their organizations had exceeded everyone's expectations. Marcus's tech infrastructure had revolutionized the Russo family's operations, making them more efficient and harder to trace. In return, the Russo family's connections had expanded Marcus's network into markets he'd never been able to access before. More importantly, Marcus and Isabella had built something neither of them expected: an actual relationship. I have something for you, Marcus said, pulling out a small box. Isabella raised an eyebrow. If that's what I think it is. It's not a marriage proposal, Marcus interrupted, smiling. We've only been together 6 months. I'm calculating, not crazy. He opened the box. Inside was a key card. I'm renovating the apartment next door, he explained, connecting them into one larger space. Your place, my place, our place. I thought, if you wanted. Isabella took the key card, turning it over in her fingers. You're asking me to officially move in. I'm asking you to build something with me. Not just a life, but an empire. Together. Your strategic mind and my technical skills. Your family's reach and my innovation. We could create something unprecedented. Isabella looked out at the city. She thought about the life she'd left behind in New York, the constant pressure, the expectations, the person she'd been forced to become. Then she thought about the life she'd been building here. The freedom to make her own choices. The partnership that challenged her intellectually and emotionally. The man who saw her not as the Red Queen, but as Isabella. Yes, she said simply. Marcus pulled her close, kissing her as the sun set over Puget Sound. You know, Isabella said when they broke apart, my family still doesn't know you ran a background check on me before we even met. And they never will, Marcus replied. Just like your family doesn't need to know you were planning to kill me that first month. Fair trade. They stood together, watching the city lights flicker on as darkness crept across the water. Two people who'd been trained to trust no one, who'd built their lives on control and careful distance, who'd learned that power meant isolation. Until they found each other. By the way, Isabella said casually, I'm pregnant. Marcus went very still. What? Kidding. She laughed at his expression. But the look on your face was priceless. That's not funny. It's a little funny. Marcus shook his head, but he was smiling. You're going to give me a heart attack. Nah. You're too calculating for that. She paused. But seriously, we should probably talk about that eventually. Kids, I mean. Eventually, Marcus agreed. After we've conquered the West Coast criminal underground. Priorities. Exactly. They went inside together, to the home they'd built from suspicion and surveillance and attraction that neither of them had seen coming. The Mafia queen and the tech boss. The hunter and the hunted. The perfect partnership. And somewhere in New York, Vincent Russo smiled, because his daughter had finally found something worth more than power. She'd found an equal. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this twist on the Mafia romance story, please hit that subscribe button and click the like button. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part was and where you're watching from. Your support means everything.